A defiant New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell is refusing to pay the city roughly $29,000 she charged this year to upgrade her city air travel to business and first class.
All expenses incurred doing business on behalf of the city of New Orleans will not be reimbursed to the city of New Orleans.
That was the mayor of New Orleans over a year ago, unapologetic in her stance on not reimbursing the city for air travel upgrades.
All expenses incurred doing business on behalf of the city of New Orleans will not be reimbursed to the city of New Orleans. One thing is clear, I do my job.
A lot has changed since then. A month after she refused to pay the money back in 2022, the mayor had a change in tune and said that she would reimburse the money. Before the end of that month, a couple of weeks after she said she will return the money, the mayor fully reimbursed the city what she owed, the amount just under $29,000 for those first and business class flight upgrades. She thought the situation was behind her, but now the Louisiana Board of Ethics has filed charges against New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell for allegedly violating state ethics laws related to those flight upgrades in 2022. Take a second to make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell for all updates. If you're watching from the New Orleans Metro, drop NOLA below in the comments. The mayor of New Orleans has been at the center of a lot of political controversy ever since she was elected as the city's first female mayor. 51-year-old LaToya Cantrell, originally from Los Angeles, has served as mayor since 2018. The city re-elected her after her first term. She is currently serving her second term. Now, when it comes to Mayor Cantrell, like anybody else, I'm pretty fair. When she's right, I'll say she's right, but when she's wrong, I have to also call a spade a spade. One of her supporters on the payroll got so upset and had the nerve to defend her behavior, which really didn't surprise me. Funny though, when I agreed with her, they had nothing to say. All I gotta say is if any of her simp enforcers contact me again, we're gonna have a field day over here. So all you Aaliyah Juniors over there, just keep your 4-page letters to yourself. I don't want to hear it, sir, and I'm not going to waste my time reading your Barney babble. But the mayor is back in the news after these new charges from the State Ethics Board. When it first happened, coincidentally, the mayor wasn't able to address it right away. She ran out of the city, well, the country, to a conference in Kenya where she was speaking on climate change and pollution.
Cantrell travels to Nairobi, Kenya today. Her office says she will speak at a United Nations event on Sunday focused on stopping plastic pollution. It says her speaking engagement will be at a session on cities leading the way in reducing the negative impact of plastics. The mayor isn't scheduled to return to New Orleans until next Wednesday.
When I heard the mayor was going over to the continent to talk about pollution, I was just thinking, here she is once again using the city's dime to handle what she calls city business. And this isn't the first time. In 2019, she spent thousands of dollars for her and her handlers to go to Ghana for an Essence event. If you all remember, 2019 was promoted as the Year of Return by Ghana. It was a campaign to encourage Black Americans, FBA, to reconnect with the land. Mayor Cantrell received a lot of backlash again in 2022, just a couple of years later, when she traveled all through Europe, Switzerland, France, Italy, and she said it was all city business.
There's been a lot of complaints and criticism for, is now the right time to leave the country when there's so much going on in the city? What would you say to that?
That there's always the right time to conduct the city's business and especially expand our cultural footprint that drives the local economy and making sure that we're making those connections that only embrace our cultural bearers.
Although the mayor insisted she was handling business for the city of New Orleans, the citizens were not happy about having to pay for her lavish vacations while they were all back home looking for her to provide solutions to local problems from the economy to crime.
It's a shame that our mayor, she take lavish vacation on the taxpayer money in foreign countries while people are dying in the city of crime.
They want answers now. We need the long-term effort on crime fighting, but we need some proactive things to happen right now.
LaToya not telling the truth.
Soon after, there was a debate about the first-class flights. Mayor Cantrell was accused of taking flights, upgrading them to business or first class, and not paying for it. City policy requires all employees to take the basic fare for the flight. However, they are able to upgrade. If they make that choice to upgrade, though, they must pay for their own upgrade. And if they don't pay it on the spot, the City of New Orleans requires them to reimburse the money within 20 business days. Mayor Cantrell racked up nearly $29,000 in upgrades.
Here's just two recent examples. In March, the mayor spent more than $2,800 to fly first class to Miami for a U.S. Conference of Mayors gathering. That's about 9 times the $342 Police Superintendent Sean Ferguson paid to fly economy to the same meeting. Other staffers paid $677. And in January, the mayor spent more than $2,300 to fly first class to a Conference of Mayors meeting in D.C. The rest of her entourage paid $250. The mayor has now racked up more than $29,000 in extra airfare.
When first confronted about the charges, the mayor gave her usual arrogant, defiant, sassy attitude and argued that she was standing on business.
All expenses incurred doing business on behalf of the City of New Orleans will not be reimbursed to the City of New Orleans.
Mayor Cantrell believed the rule was for employees, and she didn't consider herself to be a city employee because she was the mayor. Like, ma'am, if you don't work for the city, who do you exactly work for? I'll wait. The mayor is employed by the City of New Orleans, so that will make her an employee. Yeah, at first, she was saying she was not an employee and she wasn't paying nothing back. But a month later, the mayor had a change of heart, or somebody around her told her she better stop playing. She was told by other city officials if she didn't pay that money back, they would dock her pay. They said, we're getting that money back one way or another, but it's coming back to the people of New Orleans.
As it relates to the thorough review of our policy by the CAO and the law department and keeping it much on that policy, not embedding anything relative to the emergency declaration, I am, in fact, deemed an employee of the City of New Orleans.
And as an employee of the City of New Orleans, Mayor LaToya Cantrell announced Tuesday she will have to follow city policy, which means her flight upgrades will have to come out of her own pocket. Documents show the mayor has spent about $30,000 in first and business class tickets this year on behalf of the city. She previously argued the upgraded flights were for her safety and she had no intention of paying the city back.
All expenses incurred doing business on behalf of the City of New Orleans will not be reimbursed to the City of New Orleans. One thing is clear, I do my job.
But Friday, the city's chief administrative officer, Gilbert Montano, said Cantrell would have to pay the expenses back after a city attorney issued an opinion that the mayor is a city employee and has to follow the city's policy, which states employees are required to purchase the lowest airfare or pay for the upgrades themselves.
Turns out that that is applicable to her. And in all candor, I have to fulfill my duties as the CAO and ensure that those rules and responsibilities are effectuated to everybody.
City Council President Helena Moreno previously threatened to cut the mayor's salary next year if she didn't pay the money back.
Because she was in violation of the policy. So I'm glad that she'll be repaying the city and that we can work to put this behind us.
It is very clear that business was done on behalf of the City of New Orleans. However, I will have to reimburse the city for those business expenses. And so I'm moving forward to do that. The good news is, as I've said, work done on behalf of the City of New Orleans.
Then there was a cheating scandal in early 2023, an affair between Mayor Cantrell and NOPD officer Jeffrey Vapey. As I mentioned in my previous coverage here, Officer Vapey appeared on a New Orleans episode of A&E's First 48 in 2014. Both city employees, the mayor and the officer, were exposed in early 2023. This is after they were caught months earlier going in and out of a city-owned apartment accessed by the mayor, where they spent hours on at least 10 dates in August and September 2022. The officer was a part of the mayor's detail. He was being investigated for the affair which violated city policy, as well as payroll fraud because he was clocking in a bunch of hours with the mayor. During this investigation, he was pulled off the mayor's security detail. The officer was being investigated for the affair, and months later, when the affair was exposed on the news, both of their spouses were heartbroken and humiliated. Mayor Cantrell married to her husband, and Officer Vapey married to his wife. Officer Vapey's wife filed for divorce and listed his affair with the mayor in the documents. It was a pretty big deal, but you had a lot of the mayor's super fans coming out to put their capes on for her. It was crazy because, normally women love harping on salacious cheating scandals, but this time they weren't interested in the mayor cheating. Wonder why? All of a sudden, the same group of people no longer cared about cheating, at least in this case. Not only was it wrong for them to step out on their spouses and embarrass them, but it was also against city policy. Mayor Cantrell was not supposed to be getting it in with a subordinate. That's against the rules. And Officer Vapey wasn't supposed to be involved with another city employee that he was working with. Both of them obviously in violation. On top of that, you had the payroll fraud. Fast forward 6 months to the summer of 2023. By that time, NOPD claimed they had completed their investigation and quietly reinstated the officer back to the mayor's security team during the summer of 2023. It's like he just tiptoed back in there like he never left. They totally ignored the payroll fraud and failed to hold him accountable. Life just went on for the citizens as well because they didn't care that the mayor had her boyfriend back. And they seemed to continue to embrace the mayor. Then mysteriously, by the end of that summer, in August 2023, the news quietly traveled around the city that the mayor's longtime husband, Jason Cantrell, had died. It happened out of nowhere, very sudden. Attorney Cantrell wasn't sick. It was really eerie that everybody was quiet about it. No one had any questions. And although a lot of odd events played out in public, there was no investigation. Remember that apartment? The one that the mayor was using to cheat on her husband? Mayor Cantrell had been using the city-owned French Quarter apartment that overlooks Jackson Square as an Airbnb for out-of-town relatives. This, by the way, violated the state constitution. That apartment that she was getting on in, cheating on her husband in, belongs to the people of the city. It is not to be used for personal business. It's supposed to be used for official business. However, through emails, it was discovered that on several occasions, the mayor had family members there. On one occasion, she allowed her husband's aunt and uncle from Texas to stay there at the apartment during Essence Festival weekend. And after the couple left, her husband's aunt submitted a $100 donation to the mayor's campaign. The fair market rental rate for the apartment is $2,900. And side note, that's cold. She had her husband's auntie and uncle sleeping in the same bed that she was cheating on her husband in. I mean, all of this was disgusting and everybody just took up for her. Well, when the cheating scandal came out and everything was revealed in 2023, the mayor was basically banned from the unit. So she's no longer able to use it. And now, after staying out of headlines for a couple of months, Mayor Cantrell is back in the news again. Although she reimbursed the city for those travel upgrades a year ago, the State Ethics Board is still addressing the issue.
In a year after Fox 8 first reported on the mayor spending close to $29,000 on first-class air travel in violation of city policy, the State Ethics Board files charges against Mayor Cantrell.
As Rob Messon reports, those charges could lead to thousands of dollars in fines.
In its report, the State Ethics Board points out that Mayor LaToya Cantrell flew first class 15 times in 2021 and 2022 and charged nearly $30,000 to the city of New Orleans in violation of the city's travel policy.
It's not surprising that there was a violation and that they finally found it. It is surprising to me that the Ethics Board took action because this particular Ethics Board, it actually takes a lot to move them to action.
The Ethics Board found that the mayor flew first class on 13 domestic flights and 2 international trips, and at the time the mayor insisted she would not pay the money back.
And I do travel business class, absolutely. I need to be protected. I need to be safe as I do business on behalf of the city of New Orleans.
October 28th of last year, nearly 3 months after we first reported on her first-class travel expenses, the mayor changed course and reimbursed the city nearly $29,000.
I think that the mayor would probably admit that there were mistakes made, and as a council person and as a citizen, I just want us to be consistent, especially as elected officials, in addressing the laws and following the laws.
We reached out to the mayor's office for comment on the ethics board violations, but we've been told she's out of the country in Kenya for a United Nations meeting on plastic waste. The mayor's office sent a statement that she was traveling to Kenya shortly after her weekly news conference on Wednesday, at which she offered no advance notice of the trip.
If the trip is that important, why couldn't she just let us know beforehand that she was leaving to go on the trip? So I think that's the issue there.
Mayor Cantrell could be on the hook to the ethics board for up to $10,000 in fines for violating the city's travel policy.
I'm confident, Rob, at the end of the day that this issue, especially since the state ethics board is involved, is going to be followed a little bit better and closer to the law.
Since the first-class travel expenses were first reported, the council has required the administration to submit quarterly travel reports.
Thank you so much.
It is not known whether the mayor is flying first class or coach on her current trip to Africa. Rob Masson, Fox 8 Local First.
The Ethics Board has asked a special panel to hold a meeting in the future to determine whether or not fines will be imposed against the mayor. The improper travel involved trips to places like San Francisco, Miami, Nice, France, and Milan, Italy.
Of course, the mayor is out of order, but what do they always do whenever they're called out for their inappropriate behavior or doing something that they're not supposed to do? They always turn into a victim. And then the crazy thing, she kept saying that she needed those upgrades for security purposes, which made no sense because while she was in first class, her security was in coach. If she was so concerned about being protected and her bodyguard being with her at all times, she would have been back there in coach with her security. This lady was elected mayor of the city twice, and for whatever reason, she thought she was Michelle Obama. Like, cut it out. You're the mayor of a city, and if you wanted first class, you should have followed your city rules and paid for the upgrades. Mayor Cantrell is making at least $185,000 per year. So yeah, like everybody else with the city, pay for your own upgrades. I don't know why she thought that she was exempt from the rule, like she wasn't an employee. And what's with all the international trips? She's going to Europe and Africa as a local U.S. mayor, constantly repeating over and over that she was handling business for the city of New Orleans, but never came back to New Orleans with the business. The local economy is still in crisis. The crime rate is also horrible. We addressed that here plenty of times. So please tell me, how is New Orleans benefiting from you going to Kenya, talking about climate change and plastic bottles, when you need to be making sure the trash and plastic bottles in deserted areas in your city are cleaned up? You should be fixing your streets. Every time people come to Essence Festival, they gotta worry about tearing up the rental car or getting a flat tire from your messed up city roads. Or you have people who have to worry about their cars getting broken into. You park your car down there in some areas, next thing you know, overnight the whole parking lot got hit up. Criminals stealing whatever they can get their hands on. And then they can't fight crime because the officers are too busy doing nothing. They can't even bother to write up an accident right or answer the phone. Call 911, nobody's coming out there for at least 2 hours. These are the problems in the mayor's city. Yet she's going to Africa trying to lecture people. Like, really? Or maybe the police can't fight crime because they're too busy laid up with... Okay, I'll get out of there. I'm saying though, can't get no work done around there because Mr. Officer is too busy laid up with the mayor. As far as using the city to go to Africa, Europe, and everywhere else, you can travel wherever you want to travel, but you need to pay for it out of your own pocket. You're just taking lavish field trips. So pay your own dime to get there. Talking about plastic in Africa, when most of her residents never been to Ghana or Kenya or Europe or Miami, DC, and all these other places that she's traveling to. And part of the reason why is because of the long-time corruption, years and years of it, where you have elected officials that's supposed to be helping the people. You know, they're supposed to be laying the groundwork for opportunity for them to thrive, where they could benefit from a safe place to live and clean streets, a booming local economy. I also blame the citizens. They voted her in as mayor the first time after she was investigated years ago as a city council member for misusing the city's credit card back then. Years ago on the city council, she racked up $9,000 at Walmart and restaurants. Up there buying all the seafood, the crawfish, the catfish, the gumbo, the red beans and rice. Yeah, sounds familiar, huh?
Super Mayor! Hey, to be in your
But even after that investigation as city council member, they voted her in as mayor. They made this big deal about her being the first black female mayor. Crime got worse, especially in New Orleans East. And please don't try to argue this with me, it's a fact. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Out here creeping around with the police, then her husband passed away. Nobody wanted to talk about it. All of this is just crazy. And the reason why the people who voted her in have to take some responsibility is because you voted her in even after her record as city council. And then after her first term as mayor, you re-elected her. So obviously they are co-signing all of this and they don't have a problem with it. But can anybody outside of the people on her payroll tell you how this administration and their policies benefited your life? I'm talking about tangible benefits. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started below. Shout out to Randy, Barrington, Dark Power, Daniel, and Nazir. I appreciate all of you guys for supporting the channel. Don't forget that you can support this channel as well. Links to Cash App and PayPal are below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to like and share.